weekly web show all about the world of higher education. We are all about digital development, professional empowerment. I am here in studio, the one and only Mike Petroff.
How's it going, guys?
Thanks.
Good to see you in person.
Yeah, you as well, man. We've been hanging out all weekend, having a good time. You know, if anybody's out there, you want to visit LA, HigherEdLive Studios, always open, always welcome. So, as you guys know, I'm your host, Seth Odell. That's who I am. This is Mike Petroff. You guys know the hashtag, right? HigherEdLive. Any question, comment, anything you guys have, coming straight to us, from you, and back. We're going to read every tweet. We're going to feature whatever tweets we can tonight on screens. If you're sending something out, let us know. We're going to try and plug it as best we can. We're going to try and answer all your questions. So, that's HigherEdLive. We're here to talk today about welcoming the incoming class of 2015. I think Mike's loving this in-studio experience.
It's crazy, yeah.
It's pretty exciting.
It's good to see him doing 1,000 things at once.
Yeah.
His brain works the same way.
A lot going on, guys. You know, a lot going on behind the scenes, but I do it for you. I do it for you. And for the children. And for you guys, too. Alright, real quick before I get into too much trouble with it, gotta plug the wonderful sponsors that help make HigherEdLive happen. Wonderful group of people. First off, Integral. Their schools app is the best way to leverage Facebook to increase yield and retention. Check out their webinar. It's going to be this Friday. I'm going to send a tweet out in just a minute so you can learn all about it. Again, big thanks to Integral for making HigherEdLive possible. Next thanks goes to our other sponsor, OmniUpdate, the leading web content management system, CMS, provider for higher education. The company's web CMS OU campus is secure and scalable with great tools and features, deployment flexibility, and an awesome user community. In fact, it was the highest ranked CMS in the customer satisfaction in a 2010.edu Gurus survey. So guys, if you need a CMS, check out OmniUpdate.com. Can't say enough things about the wonderful team there. And they're also Southern California located, you know, great place in the country to be, to live. And I'm glad Mike Petroff is here in that part of the country with us today as well. So, guys, before we dive into the Weekly 5, I just want to talk a little bit. We are talking today about welcoming the incoming class of 2015. So, this is a big time for admissions, folks. You know, we are bringing in a new class of students to come onto campus, and there's a lot of questions around that. Not just in who's going to get accepted, because that decision's been made by most schools already, but by how are you going to engage the students before September or August when they actually arrive on campus. That's going to be the conversation today. It's actually a really, really good one, and we're going to be talking primarily about what first, and then how. So we'll be covering a lot of new technology, social media stuff, but we're not talking directly about that. We're talking about what students want, how to deliver it. So it's going to be a really, really fun conversation. But you guys know how we start each show. How do we start each show? The Weekly 5. 5 stories from around the web that I think are awesome, that you should read, note, think of, whatever you want. Just make sure to pay attention to it. The first one coming on is Amazon has launched a live flash media streaming service. And it looks pretty complicated if you guys are looking at this image. I get that, but it's not that bad. And it's a new way to live stream if you don't want to live stream necessarily with something like Ustream. It's going to be ad-free streaming from Amazon. Pretty cool. I would recommend noting it. Breaking down what the price actually is pretty tough to figure out. But there's some numbers out that make it look like it could be really affordable to stream with. So again, if your boss or supervisor, somebody's against using Ustream, which they shouldn't be, Ustream is free. They should want to use it, but if they don't want to, Amazon's launch of the live flash media streaming service is worth noting. We got a link going out. Read that article. That's the first of the Weekly 5. Next coming up is a very unfortunate Amazon. So we're ready to talk about how cool it is to stream with Amazon. Amazon had some serious cloud problems this week that affected a lot of sites, Foursquare, Quora, Reddit, but it also affected some folks in higher ed. So when you're talking about streaming with Amazon and talking about cloud with Amazon, a lot of folks are moving more to the cloud. There's some problems with that though too, and I think that was experienced this week.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, one of the sites that, actually 2 of the sites that shut down were both big Twitter management sites, CoTweet and Hootsuite. And I know at our college, at Emerson College, we use Hootsuite as basically our engine to run all of the tweets and manage between about 3 or 4 staff members what we're posting out. So to come to work that morning and realize, hey, we can't assign tweets to each other, we can't schedule future tweets. Basically, we had to figure out a way around that and say, what are we going to use? Are we just going to each use TweetDeck and work through email? Or, you know, you got to think about those things in advance and kind of have a backup plan, I guess, which we never really had one. But something to think about for future things.
Yeah, it's, you know, I think people, I don't want people to scare folks off from the cloud, but it's really something to think about. When you have a problem on campus, at least you know someone on campus is going to be dealing with it. It's different with this stuff, and I think it was a vulnerability that people didn't see before, that something could affect sites on this large of a scale. So, you know, keep it in mind, especially as more folks are leaning more and more towards going cloud-based. Good to keep in mind. So that's Weekly 2. We got weekly 3 coming up for you guys. It's tweeting and deleting helped build a case against Tyler Clementi's roommate in Rutgers webcam case. You guys probably remember the very, very unfortunate story that came out from Rutgers of a student committing suicide after his roommate essentially set up a webcam and started filming him with another student. It's a really tragic story. But what's happening now is that roommate is actually getting into a lot of legal trouble due to the death of his roommate. And part of it is actually from him deleting tweets. And the reason I just wanted to bring this up today is as we're talking about admissions and welcoming students onto campus, I think it's really important that colleges and universities understand they have a responsibility to educate students at least a little bit on the way they act online, because I don't think it's in the high school curriculum, and yes, their parents should tell them and they should know, but I think somewhere in orientation there needs to be some kind of conversation about, at least an FYI, over the 4 years that you're here, this is what you need to be careful about, because not only is it important for student safety and for the students themselves, but I'm going to be honest, and it's important for the universities not to look bad either. It's a bad PR problem to have when your students make mistakes online. While you can't stop it, you can definitely do what you can to kind of curb that activity.
Definitely, and I know that at Emerson we focus on orientation as a time when our current students and our new incoming students are getting together. One of the important things that we do is do all these sessions about social media and its uses, and not only just how it's a good thing, but also how it can be a negative thing, talking about privacy, talking about bullying. And I think it's important to start that dialogue at your campus to talk to incoming students about what are the bad uses of social media, and how should you try to steer students away from that, or just educate them about what the possible outcomes are if you do something like that.
Yeah, it's something to keep in mind, because I think every campus needs to be doing something. So, next story going on this week that you guys should notice came from the one and only Red Crew on Twitter. Hooked me up with this one great little video from Fanta, the beverage company. They did a little video, a viral video, where they sort of essentially came to the University of Wisconsin and took over one of their elevators, and students would essentially kind of get trapped in the elevator for a couple seconds, and as they freaked out, like, doors would open and soda would be given to them, and it's kind of funny. Coca-Cola did something similar a while ago at a different school. I just thought it's a really funny use of advertising, and the reason I wanted to mention it today is my question to you guys. First question of the day is, do you think your campus would even allow it? I think there's a lot of schools that if an advertiser approached them and said, hey, I want to come in and mess with your students, they wouldn't do it. But you know what? University of Wisconsin looks good in this case. It's funny. The students seem to be having a good time. It's good PR, and I know they got paid for it. So, just a question. What do you think? And it's probably more about your own administration. You don't have to tweet your answer if the answer is definitely not. But, I would hope schools are being a little creative with revenue generation these days. You need all the money you can get. So, it's funny. So, guys, we call it the Weekly 5 for a reason. This is because we have 5 stories. I know, it's not just a clever name. So we're going to knock out the last one here today for you guys. And it is the top commencement speakers for 2011. Huffington Post put out a nice little abbreviated kind of summary of all the top commencement speakers for 2011. If you guys know who your commencement speaker is, feel free to tweet it out with the hashtag HigherEdLive. We'd love to hear who you guys have coming to campus. There's some ones, Denzel Washington, some big folks, and I think it's really interesting. So, while you're keeping that in mind, guys, please make sure to tune in next week, because next week we got a big, big show, Commencement 2.0, graduation for a new generation. Why is commencement being presented the same way it has been for years when technology has advanced? It's time to rethink the way commencement works. Now, that show, I gotta say, guys, I'm doing solo. So last time I did this show solo, it was kind of crazy. I was like the Micro Machine guy, like hyper speed, just whipping through everything. So next week, Commencement 2.0, please come, wear a seatbelt. It's going to be a fast and crazy ride. And it's something I'm excited and passionate about. So guys, again, if you guys have commencement speakers or you're doing something different for commencement this year, let me know. I'll plug it next week. I'll give you a shout out. And while we're talking about shout outs, each week we have an unsolicited shout out of the week, where I shout out any person, place, thing, or idea for any reason, because this is my show, and that's what I get to do. If you want to shout something out, usually you'd have to go get your own show, but not today. Today I'm not shouting out anything. Today I'm asking you guys to shout something out. Tell me what is a great resource, great tool, great site, great person that you rely on, pretty much anything. Give them a shout out, use the hashtag HigherEdLive, and throughout the show we're going to pull them up your tweets, we're going to show them off, we're going to let people know what you're saying. So, give a shout out to any person, place, thing, or idea, anything you want. Today the shout out is entirely up to you. So, awesome, right? Yeah. Very cool. This is exciting stuff. So guys, we're here talking today about welcoming the incoming class of 2015, because most folks, as you know, with admissions, things have wrapped up, students are accepting, and it's time to really shift gears and focus on how we can get them to campus, get them excited, get them engaged, get them happy. So, to put into context a little bit before we dive in today, we're going to kind of be talking about welcoming the incoming class with the start of acceptance. I mean, clearly, guys, there's a lot you can do with marketing to get people to apply, to increase interest, and we don't want to focus too much on that today simply because this is a huge piece of the pie, and this could eat up a lot of time. So we're going to focus pretty much on the start of when that acceptance letter goes out to when they arrive on campus in the fall. What should we be doing right now today? What should your campus be doing in mind to make sure those students are coming in comfortable, prepared, and ready to go? So, again, that's what we're talking about, and there's a lot of great options. I didn't even say one thing. When we talk about all this stuff today, there are some big ticket items that you can really use to help increase yield. Obviously, yield is something people always talk about. A couple of those, just to mention briefly, is Integral, our sponsor. They do the Facebook app that actually it helps increase yield, retention, and then also another plug's got to go out to the guys over at Varsity Outreach that also have a system on Facebook where they use that. They're both very complex and really cool, essentially programs you can use to help increase yield and engage students. And those are great. If you guys have the budget to use them, please go out and research both of those. But today we're going to really be focusing on things that anyone can do. I want to make sure that what we talk about today, any college or campus, any college campus, any university, anywhere can utilize this stuff. So both the Integral Varsity Outreach, great stuff. Check it out. But we're going to, again, focus on kind of what you guys can do today without big budget. So that's where it's going today.
Yeah, let's get into it.
All right, guys, let's get into it. If you guys have anything you want us to say, hit it out there in the tweet stream. Use the hashtag. You guys know how to do this, though. So, starting off, Mike, when we talk about this stuff, for folks maybe that don't work directly in admissions, for instance, I don't work directly in admissions, what does the actual admissions calendar look like this time of year? That way we kind of know, again, we mentioned, once the acceptance letter goes out to the fall, well, what falls in between there? What's the admissions calendar kind of look like?
Sure, well, basically what happens is that some schools have an early decision or early action period where they're sending out decision letters in probably mid to late December, early January. But then it goes through the spring for regular admission, and the majority of acceptance letters, because we'll talk about sort of accepted students at this point, usually go out sometime in March. And basically what happens after that is that a student has until May 1st to decide, a freshman incoming student. That's the deposit deadline that's sort of set globally across any of the college campuses. So a lot of what we do in admission between the decision letter going out and May 1st is look at how can we make sure that that student knows enough about us to make an informed decision about where they want to go to college. And then sort of after May 1st, you look at the calendar, after they've deposited, and you kind of form your incoming class. Maybe you have some waitlist issues to go through and looking at students, trying to bring them in. That's another yield cycle sort of to talk about. But after that, it's about what do you send out to students over the summer to make sure that they know what happens at orientation, that they know what their housing is, that they know what student organizations are going to help them when they get there to campus. And then you're basically just ramping up until early September, late August when students arrive on campus. You want them to be really well informed at that point. But that's sort of the calendar. Those are the markers that you hit. And then every year it's pretty much the same thing. It's just recycling through that calendar that you do.
So clearly within that, it's kind of a can of worms. We talk about getting someone excited about groups on campus and connected and engaged. There's a lot to get into, and we're going to get into all of it, because that's what we're here for at HigherEdLive. But we're going to start with the letter, because that's where it all starts. I mean, up until one point, you have students that are applying, and that's a whole level of marketing to get folks to apply, to increase the number and the quality of students. But it all changes when that letter goes out. Because the letter goes out means they've accepted. So, but talking a little about the letter and what your experience is, because, you're talking both about a paper letter and it could be a digital letter. Nowadays it seems like schools, there's no unified choice. Some schools are still being traditional, sending out packets. Some are sending an email out first. It seems like you could do a lot with it.
Yeah, definitely. We're an organization that still sends out a mailed acceptance letter. It's actually a packet. And then also we release our decisions online. We made that transition a year ago, and I know some other schools have made that a couple years ago, 3-4 years ago even. And then some schools may send out emails. But basically what I believe that the letter should signify is not only just the announcement that you're accepted into the college, but also an immediate invitation into the college community. So if you think about that, it's what can you do in the letter? What can you do in that experience, that 5 minutes that the student realizes, oh my gosh, I got a big packet in the mail, or I click open that link and I see, hey, I'm accepted. It shouldn't end there. What we do at Emerson, just a quick example of something that we do is in our online decision letter that we've custom coded, but I'm sure there's other options for this, is always include a next steps area, because what happens is a student will read that decision get really excited and go talk to their parents or go talk to a friend. Why not have them talk to other accepted students, talk to current students? So lead them into that community where they can do that. Think, if you have a Facebook that already exists, a Facebook group, you have students active on Twitter, why not have them tweet, hey, I was accepted at Emerson College, have people write back to them, push them right into that Facebook group,
I think that's so huge. I think the biggest point, I think, is one that we've discussed before, which is that there is no point in your relationship with that student that they will ever be more excited and more engaging, more willing to put out work and do whatever you ask them than the moment that letter arrives. When that letter arrives, whether it's digital, for instance, most students now are finding out online. The second they find out online, they are into it. They'll probably jump through any hoop you ask, do anything you want because they are so excited. So the problem is if you wait weeks for a packet to arrive or weeks to do a follow-up email, that diminishes really quickly. So one thing we talk about is, now that folks can check online, you can literally set it up so you can see when students are checking online, so you can know when Jane Doe instantly knows that she's all of a sudden an accepted student, and that's when you should hit the green light.
Yeah, definitely. Even to speak to that, you can even use traditional methods that you've used in the past, but knowing the data that you know, which students are checking online, say you build a system where you can check IDs of students that have logged in and seen acceptances, why not parse that list out with those IDs, send that to your admission counselors or marketers, have them follow up with each one of those students the following day to say, hey, congrats, I saw that you were accepted. Is there any questions that you have? Is there anything that I can help you out with? You can always use that data. Don't just think you have to send them to Facebook. Pick up the phone and call them, but knowing that they've opened the letter, they're open to that phone call at that point,
And that's the best part. You know when they've opened that letter. You do a traditional mailing, you don't really know. You give a window, you trust the post office. But online it's different. You know as soon as they open that. And that's kind of when you got to be ready to go. So that's one thing I think is really important, that every college university should have essentially a green light that they hit as soon as a student opens that online, they know. Because you're able to find out, and again, the student will do just about anything. So the question is, what do you want the student to do? I'm sure students are very excited when they're accepted, and that's kind of why the big question is, once a student is accepted, what are they looking for? And that's the loaded question, I think, so I want to hash that out a little bit. Like, what does a student want as soon as they're accepted? And they've, then obviously it's about whether they want to come, and if they already know they want to come, then what's the next step,
Yeah, I think students want sort of a checklist in their mind of all of the things that need to be set up before they come to campus. And the more comfortable that they feel with they've gotten everything in order, everything's put into place, they're, the money side of it, the housing side of it, the community side of it. And I think students immediately, the thing that we can do as, web developers and marketers and higher ed, especially people with an admission, is, maybe we can't solve the financial side of it. We don't have complete control over financial aid. We don't have complete control over merit money. But we do have control over making them feel comfortable in that community before they even join in. So I think students are looking to reach out with other accepted students. They're looking to reach out to current students on campus, current faculty on campus. And I think as much as we could do to provide that to them, and hope that everything else can come along with it, I think that's the best thing that you can do up front.
And that's a big thing, point you bring up, is it's not just about connecting with your community on campus, it's about connecting with the other accepted students.
Absolutely.
And the more that you can do that and enhance that, I think the more likely they are to actually come because they feel like they're a part of something. And again, as a lot of reasons students drop out or don't come, but friendship is a big deal. People feel like they're a part of something. So, one of the big ones, it's the loaded one that everybody always talks about, is Facebook, obviously. There's a lot of things you can do with Facebook. Again, we mentioned Varsity Outreach and Integral are kind of like the big, if you guys want to go out and play with the big dogs, those guys do it really well. But also, just something like a Facebook group, for instance. That's something that people talk about a lot. Here's just one example we're pulling up. A lot of schools set up Facebook groups for incoming classes. This is Indiana State's, beautifully done. Big shout out to them. They did a great job. I think that at this point, it's obvious to say that you need to set up a class of incoming class for Facebook. I think it just needs to be done.
Yeah, and it's not, it's funny because 3 years ago, if we had this talk, it would have been a new thing to say, oh my God, a Facebook group is the way to go. Now I just searched, just through other colleges today earlier, of class of 2015 Facebook group, every single college has one, at least some type of mention to go there. But I think now it's the question of what do you do with that group? If you're just promoting it on your website, but not making students have conversation, not engaging them in a way that says, this is where this happens online. A couple of things that we do is when we send out our acceptance letters and we know that accepted students are going to start joining the group, I always reach out to current students, current orientation leaders, current student organization leaders, And I say, hey, look, we're going to send out acceptances. Do you want to meet some of these incoming students? And immediately they're so excited. They're saying, yeah, totally. I tell them to friend me, do this. And I say, the best thing that you can do is join our group or join our page, and immediately comment back every time someone says, hey, I'm from New Jersey, accepted to film. If they get a student to write back from the college that says, congratulations, can't believe you got accepted, I'm a sophomore at the college, ask me anything you like, that's where the setup happens. That's sort of the next level of, you don't just want them to meet each other, you want to bring conversation to the group.
Totally. Now, one thing to note, we are going to get technical for a second, is that there's a difference obviously between Facebook pages and Facebook groups. The one I just showed, I should clarify, Indiana State is actually a Facebook page. You like it and you're a part of it. Your other option is to go with a group. Now, I will say this, like I said, 3 years ago, just doing this was a big deal. I think doing it today, there is not a set standard on which one works. I know that that over at Belmont University, they're going and they're using Logan Bishop using a group and having great success. Using a group, you get things like group chat, you get notifications, but it really works, I think, better with smaller incoming classes, because as soon as you have more than 250 people in the group, they shut off the chat features, and the group features that are really kind of what enhances it, makes it great, kind of go away. So my general rule of thumb would be, if you're a smaller school or have a smaller incoming class, a group works great. But I think, generally speaking, a page is probably the way to go for most institutions.
Yeah, and I would say a page is also allows for broadcast out, so if there's a message that needs to go to all the students, a group doesn't really allow for that. I mean, you got a notification, possibly, if everyone kept that on. But the other thing, something to think about to moving forward, we're really thinking about Facebook as it's not the perfect platform for an accepted group, because we're kind of in the middle. We don't have millions of people following us to be a page, but we also don't have 10 students that are accepted to be a group. So why not use a combination and look at that and say, the public class of 2015 for Emerson College is a page, but yet if you want to create individual groups for majors, for interest, for floors, that's something a next level to move on, and then you just promote them on the page and you say, hey, discussion threads, you can move people into groups from that.
That is a great idea. I think something people should take home to is, it's not just about what you have to do. At this point, you have to have a Facebook page for your incoming class. Have fun with this and get into it. I would love to see a school that came out and said, for every single major, we had a group. And what's the interaction with it? I think you'd be surprised to see that, if you have an incoming class like UCLA of roughly 5,000 students, how fast can you get all of the English majors in one place? Because that's who they're going to connect with. That's who they're going to be in class with for 4 years. Those are the people that are going to keep them in school and help them succeed. Those are their peers. Your peers aren't just anyone in your class. So depending on your size, I would say, dig in a little bit. Maybe don't go out for every single major, but what's your big major? What's your popular one? Or what's the major that has the most students you're trying to yield? Just be a little creative. I think that's the next step I see evolving from this, is a really customized approach that's focused on your school and how your school's education is set up.
Absolutely. I would even take it a step further and say, look at your data and find key pockets around the country, because what you also want to try to encourage is possibly in-person meetups between your accepted students. Say, New York City is a giant population of accepted students. There's 30, 40 out there. Maybe you don't have the money with an admission to send a representative out there. What you can do is create a group for those, New York accepted students to your college, and hope that they join that, start collaborating, start talking, and maybe they're going to meet up for pizza or coffee or something like that. That's an opportunity where a group is perfect for that situation.
Totally. Now, we got a good question coming in from the one and only Rick over at Meet Content and ePublish Media. It's just saying, are there opportunities to invite people to join your community before they're accepted as students? And I don't know what Mike's answer to this. I'm going to jump in a little bit, and I'll say, first off, totally. People are always welcome into the community if they're interested at all, if they're prospective students on any level. But my personal opinion is there needs to be a special place for accepted students, because that's a point where you're part of a family and you're really coming to campus. You could even argue there's a place for students once they've already said yes. So they've been accepted by the university and they've gone ahead and they've enrolled. There could be something there. I think there's something to be said about allowing those students to engage with their incoming class and the students they're going to be living with and studying with for 4 years. I would argue personally that prospective students have a great place on the main Facebook page. I think that's a great place to get information and foster for them. But I may feel differently than you guys, so please, if you have a different opinion, let me know, because I'm not sure there's one answer to that.
And I've actually seen, it's a really good question, because I've seen a lack of opportunity for prospective students to a college meet each other before they apply or while they're applying. There's really there's no incentive to the college at that point, which is the normal perception that maybe we should make this a community. Maybe we should make these students meet each other while they're applying. Where maybe some, colleges or universities have a Facebook page for admission, and that's where students go to ask questions, that kind of stuff. But I mean, there's other, sort of if you think about finding a college network, there's solutions out there by other vendors. Just, for example, like something like Zinch is out there where students can give love to a college and say, I love this college, and kind of meet each other within that social network while they're searching for a college. So I think there's something starting there, but I haven't really seen anything yet that makes sense for a college to reach out to someone in the application process and say, hey, do you want to meet other applicants at this point?
Yeah.
I think the time for that is open houses, really, if you think about it, the in-person events. So how do you take an open house and that experience and put it online, I guess is the big question.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing, we're talking a lot about Facebook and Facebook groups and pages. Clearly, guys, I'll be honest, that's kind of the money ticket right now, I think. And I think it's really important that students are on Facebook, that's where to go. But it's not the only place. Not every student is everywhere. So I think it's really important to know that. So I just want to say, one example that we came across in doing our research is, I think every campus should have a social media directory of some kind.
Absolutely.
Now this is beyond just accepted students, but you need to have a place, I think, where you can tell accepted students as well as other interested people from your community, hey, go here and find a way to connect with us.
Yeah, because I mean, what's happening right now is that if you look across the board, every college has a Facebook Class of 2015 page. But what if a student's interested in maybe the student television network that's there? If they see that, oh wow, the student television network at the college has a Facebook page just for themselves, maybe I'll post on there, hey, I'm an accepted student looking to talk to some students in through this group. I mean, that's awesome to be able to provide that out to the student and say, look, here's everything we have. And the other thing that it does is it makes your college look like a connected college. And it makes it look like it's a college that knows what it's doing within internal communication and showing people, look, if you want to get involved, it's actually very easy to get involved. And we also promote this, to get involved.
Totally. Really good point. Now, guys, we're talking, again, what accepted students want to see, but not everything is big picture, connecting, feeling part of the community. Some of it's very tangible. And one example of that is housing. And that's just an example of where are they going to live and who are they going to live with. And as we talk about Facebook groups, one thing to bring up, very controversial, is a site called RoomSurf. And RoomSurf took a lot of heat, well-deserved heat, for the last couple of years because they've been marketing where they would foolishly set up welcoming pages for colleges, and then they would offer students a chance to connect with a roommate, find a roommate through a matching survey. Now, I am not here today to condone what they've done. I can tell you I've spoken with the folks at RoomSurf on several occasions. They get the mistakes they've made. But what I want to say is this. RoomSurf took a lot of heat, well-deserved heat, because of the way they marketed. But I'm going to pull this up and I'm going to go out on the line and say that RoomSurf's product is awesome. What RoomSurf's site does is it lets students take a survey and they're matched with students with similar interests for the campus they're going into. So they can meet people and potentially have a roommate. Now, I'm not saying you have to use RoomSurf, but if we're just focusing as an industry on how RoomSurf really messed up with their marketing, we're missing the point that the service is something our students demand. So one thing I want to say with housing is I think every single student accepted to any college or university in the country needs to have the perception that they are in some level of control with their housing. Now, I get that housing is a huge issue, that you can't let every student match with another student, and I'm not saying we should. But for a student who's just gotten accepted to a community, wants to be a part of it, is spending a ton of money to be told that you have no say with who you live with, I don't think that's ideal. I think students want to feel like they have some level of control. And I'm not saying that they actually need to have it, but if you let them fill out a survey and maybe they're matched with a third of their incoming class, that you have general interests, and with that survey you turn back and you say, here's links to clubs on campus that are related to your answers, I just think there's huge potential there. There's huge potential in housing that most of higher ed is, at this point, not utilizing.
And I think the big gap right now, I know a lot of schools will send out a housing application card or sort of a checklist of things for a student to fill out and submit when they submit their deposit or a couple weeks after that. And I think what happens to a lot of students is they'll feel like maybe I can meet some students on Facebook, and if the school gives me the opportunity to fill out IDs or other names of students to try to be paired with them, that's a great opportunity right there. But the big gap is that, typically a student will fill out that housing card and not hear until maybe early August the fact who they're paired up with, have that time to get in touch with them. So I think where RoomSurf comes in, it's kind of this middle ground to say after you're accepted but before you fill out that housing card, here's a way to try to filter out some of the people that you know that you want to live with or not live with. And I think that's a big opportunity for a lot of colleges to just give a student a chance to meet the entire incoming student,
Totally.
or maybe 80 or 90 students, and then filter themselves to figure out, maybe I want to live with this person, and this person, fill out that housing card. But my experience, too, is that sometimes on Facebook, you'll see students posting in a housing thread that says, hey, am I crazy, but I kind of just want to be randomly paired up and have the luck of the draw. So you kind of have to give both opportunities there. And I've been surprised that students are actually up for saying, hey, pair me with whoever you pair me with, and I'll make the best out of it.
That's a very good point. And I will concede that totally, that there's something about college that really opens a lot of people's eyes up to what the world is really like. Yeah. It's a very culturally diverse place. For many people, it's really eye-opening. And you don't want to eliminate that simply by pairing every person with someone exactly like them. And I will totally concede it. That's a good point. But I think the point to make, too, is that, guys, you don't have to use room surf. First off, we don't use room. Whether Higher Ed uses room surf or not, our students are. Fact. That being said, if you want to offer your students a solution, you can. Again, I'm going to give another shout-out to Indiana State. Indiana State, on their page for the class of 2015, they have their own way that you can find your roommate and connect with students. So, the question is it worth the time? And I think at some level it is. One other thing I'd say about housing before we move on from this subject is that it's not just about who you live with, it's about who you live around. Yeah. I mean, once you have the floor figured out, how interesting would it be just to say, hey, these are the students in your building or on your floor, just so when you show up, it's not complete strangers everywhere.
And it's funny how clever and innovative students are with that, because last year what happened is that students that were accepted to Emerson found very simple floor plans of each floor in one of our buildings. Basically, we have like an 8 to 9 story building where students live. They found the floor plan to that, put it on Facebook, and tagged themselves in the dorm room, so they got placed.
Are you serious?
So basically that was online, and they said, this is our floor, this is floor 8 in the little building or whatever. Yeah. And they tagged themselves across the board. Why not take that and think, how can we build that for the incoming class for next year,
Yeah.
And have it so it's an option to say yes or no that you want this to come out publicly, but it's kind of a cool thing. Students, are always one step ahead of us when they think of what to market.
And that's the point. When the students do that, just understand that the demand for that was so high that students went out of their way to figure out how to do it. And I just think that's really interesting and really cool. I think when you see that stuff, you got to grab it and go with it. I love that students were tagging the floor plan. That's so cool.
Very cool.
So when we're talking about, for instance, if you did a housing survey of some kind, one of the things that would come up, as I mentioned, is you could connect students to interests or topics on campus. So, let's say in theory you did that. The question is how, now that you have an accepted student who's maybe they've actually deposited, they're coming, you know some of their interests, they applied, maybe you did a survey. How do you connect them with what's going on campus? Right. And how do you do it in a way that makes sense? And that's why I want to turn to you, Mike. You guys have done something really cool at Emerson that I want you to talk about the video you guys did to show students one way they can engage on campus. And it was just really, really cool. So
what we did is I worked with an on-campus group that actually approached me in admission first called the Emerson Channel. It's a student-run organization that came out to us and said, we want to try to find a way to tell incoming students that the Emerson Channel is a TV station at campus that they should be watching. How do we do that? They were thinking about some orientation things, something like that. And I said, you guys produce video. You guys are great at producing video. Why don't you make a video for incoming students, couch it in a message that is relevant to them, that says, this is what life is like here, this is why we want you to come here. And it was honest. It was when we were working together, and I sort of acted as kind of a supervisor to the project, but just kind of led them along the way. All I really did was give them sort of the major points that we hit on, the values that we see at Emerson College when we talk to prospective students, and gave them that as a rough outline and said, take what you will from this, but I want it to be genuine. I don't want it to be scripted by admission. They went out and actually shot a video, cut it together, helped them with a little bit of the editing stuff, and put it out there for our incoming students to say, look, when you get on campus, here are the options available to you. This is the type of environment you'll immediately be coming into. And really what we did is just put together a website and a landing page that lets students see this is what's available to them when they get on campus. And I think it turned out really well. And I think it's also one of those things that it's clever marketing because, it serves us a purpose, it serves the Emerson Channel a purpose, but it also helps the incoming students see what's available to them.
Yeah. And guys, you're looking at it on screen right now. One of the key things is the way this was presented. I can't stress enough, guys. We tweeted out the link. If you do one thing today, watch this video. It's just an amazing example of students talking to students. Mike and I have been hanging out all weekend in LA, beautiful sunny Los Angeles. But of course we talk shop because that's the way life is. I'm not going to name a name, but we surfed around and we found a video for accepted students from a major college. And the entire thing was from the admissions office's point of view, saying, we looked at all these applications, and we've accepted you, and I drank 30 cups of coffee, all these things. It was all about the admissions office. The video from Emerson, again, I'll pull it up, guys. Please watch this video. Has nothing to do with the admissions office, has nothing to do with the marketing department. It is literally current students saying, congratulations, welcome to the family, I want you to come, and then talking all about it. It's just amazingly authentic, and part of the reason I think is because while you gave them an outline of like, here's what I want you to do, you weren't there with the camera, you weren't there in the editing room, you gave them a guideline, and you let the students produce something, and I think that's going to resonate a lot more than anything else.
And I think it's important for us staff to realize an accepted student doesn't care about what we went through to accept them. I think that's what we always like to talk about, and we'll release a press release saying students accepted are from, you know, these states, and this. They don't want to feel like a number. They want to feel like, if I can see myself in the shoes of a student there, am I going to succeed? And I think showing a video like this is the perfect example of, from a student to a student, we step out of the picture and just say, all we're going to do is send it out to you, present it to you. And then I think the biggest thing that we've done here is offer ways for the students to then connect with the people that they saw in the video, to go on the Facebook group, ask questions, to tweet at them, to do anything that they want to get feedback back about, hey, I saw that you said you're a journalism major in the video and you went to this internship. Tell me what it was like. You know, you have to offer up that engagement afterwards in that conversation, because you don't want just a video to end and say, you know, well, I watched the video, I don't know where to go from here.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why you surround it with information, give them as much as you possibly can. So guys, we're talking about doing a video, right? But there's a big question I want to have, and again, guys, please hashtag it up, get it out there, because this is a big question. How do you market to students in a way that it resonates with them? I mean, that's the video's example, I think, of something that's pretty authentic, that's reaching out to them. But, you know, how do you engage them on a level that works, where the students hear you? And just one example is, as you guys know, a lot of stuff with admissions is still going to be paper-based. You're still going to send a packet. So how do you engage students? And when you are sending stuff through the mail, like, how do you engage a student from paper to digital? How do you get them from a real world to a virtual world and get them engaging? So that's kind of one of the big challenges.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things that we did, which kind of came out of, it's a sort of a marketing campaign that I know Laura's out there watching, and we're working together at Emerson College to sort of see the light of day and make this happen, is that we noticed that we send beanie caps, like basically like winter caps, out to our students as sort of a hats off to you campaign after they're accepted. And we noticed about 2 years ago when we did this, they would join the Facebook group and see that one or two other students would take a picture of themselves in the hat, and then they would follow up and do that. So what we noticed is that throughout the next couple of years, we found ways to encourage more of the students to do this. And what happens is sending a physical mailing out to someone and encouraging them back to the Facebook group, if only one or two or maybe three students post a picture of that, they're going to think, wow, I want to do that too. And then that leads to 10 students, which leads to 50 students. This year we had about 80 to 90 students post pictures in our Facebook page of them wearing an Emerson hat. And think about that's great because it's going in our Facebook page, Creating Community. That's also going to every one of their friends. That's going to everyone on Facebook that's seen any notification that, hey, Joey's got a picture of himself in an Emerson hat. And, you know, that creates kind of this excitement about the college where, hey, it's a hat mailing, but what are you doing to get them to talk about it back online and share that with not only that student and that family, but every single person that they know?
Totally.
You know?
And guys, I gotta say, the paper mailing idea is brilliant, and they're not alone at Emerson. I just one example we came across this week, Westminster College. Every accepted student got a small paper eagle. Their mascot is the eagle, and was essentially asked to take a picture with it and submit it to Facebook. And they got all these pictures in from accepted students from all over the world doing funny things with the eagles, like just really creative. I'm sending out a link now, guys. Check out the article on that. This is just an awesome example. If you want students to engage with you online, engage with them in real life.
Absolutely.
Send them something and challenge them. So often I think we leave things open-ended. Oh, you can find us on Facebook, you can find us on Twitter. No, here is a direct challenge. We're giving you something and we challenge you, because guess what? Once a student's accepted, they want to do this. They want to participate. They don't want just an open-ended, here's 20 things you could do. Ask them to do one.
And I think that's important because we always think about, when you look at your website, one of the things that when you're auditing a website, you say every page should have a call to action, right? You think about a call to action. Name a call to action when you say, find us on Facebook. You know, that's not a call to action. So when you think about use Facebook, but when you're sending people to the Facebook page, add a call to action to it. Say, find someone from your area, find other students from your major, you know, tell us about this. Those are call to actions that you can include online. And the best benefit about that is that when a student does that, it encourages other people to do that too, because it kind of breaks the ice. It opens the door for them to reach out and say, hey, I'm doing it, you probably should too. Maybe this is embarrassing, but I'm going to reach out and try to just be funny too, and post that picture, post that video.
Totally. I just think that students are open to it, have some fun, get into it, I don't know, I like it. I like the idea a lot. So one thing I want to talk about, guys, we're going to shift gears just a tiny bit, is beyond calls to action for students' information, there's a really key group that I think is often overlooked in the dialogue, in the conversations we have, and that's parents. Mm-hmm. When a student is accepted, so often the role of a parent in the decision of a college, beforehand, looking, going to visit, is so huge. And let's be honest, a lot of the times the parent is helping or paying for a large portion of the education, so they're very invested. So the question is, to you guys too, first off, are you engaging accepted student parents? Is my question to you. And the broader question for us, which I'm still trying to figure out, is how do we do it if we should? I mean, I think we'd all agree that acceptance students' parents need to be engaged.
Right.
They're emotionally involved, they're financially involved, and let's be honest, guys, they can be big donors too. I know we're not talking about development today, but parents that care give. So what do we do for parents?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been asked the question too: is do you create a you think so small level, but do you create a Facebook group within admission for the incoming accepted student parents? It's like that population is small because they don't know that we're creating this group for them. What I would return with was, what are you doing for parents of current students right now? On campus we have a parent leadership council that goes around to different events, basically helps out at open houses, orientations, whatever. But they're an engaged parent group. The first thing that I would do is reach out to them and say, when your student was joining Emerson College, what were your concerns? What things did you want answered from the college? And did you want to meet other parents to ask those same questions? Mm-hmm. And I'm sure the response would probably be, we wanted to talk to current student parents. We wanted to talk to alumni parents and say, what did your student do 5 years out of college? Mm-hmm. What success do they have when they're leaving school? Because I think that's a big part of it. So I would sort of encourage users to do at different admission offices is to reach out to that group and try to build a community within current student parents, alumni parents, and then what you can do is once that's established, you bring that audience of incoming students in. So it's this rotating cycle every year that these incoming parents can reach out to this current parent group and say, I have these questions, I have these concerns, and then every year it builds from there. You're not losing an audience every year.
And it's the same concept that you want to connect accepted students to current students to answer questions. Absolutely. It's the same thing with parents, but it's a great point that parents, it's not just about viewing the incoming class. Mm-hmm. It's about parents, I think, as a broader community. And I think, a lot of larger institutions I know that have development offices take the time to do that. There's a link out that Serenity just sent out that UCLA has one for parents, a Facebook page.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Either way, guys, I'm just saying, the more you engage parents, the better it's going to be. Answer their questions, be there to talk about it. I just think that stuff, really does matter, and it really does make a difference to me. So I think that's a really interesting one. I'm curious to see what more folks are doing. So if you guys are doing stuff with parents, let us know. So, guys, another topic to talk about, though, with this stuff is how do you measure results? One of the things I love about admissions is that so much of it is based on analytics and numbers. Clearly, how many students applied, how did you accept? It's one area beyond like marketing or PR where you have a little bit more tangible stuff. But when you look at how I engage accepted students, is there something that you can do to measure year to year? And it's a broad question to Mike and everybody else out there. How do you measure this stuff? And how do you make sure that you're doing it right? How do you define success and then reach it?
Well, the funny thing is that, when you're dealing with admission and you have a really strong, data side to your department and you're coding students with how they've applied, where they're from, when their application was submitted, what major they're interested in, you have so much data in your hands. All you have to do is take that data from your Facebook group or whatever it is, pair it with your student information system, and you can learn so much about the students and how successful a campaign was. Even better if you're, whatever platform you're on to join communities together, whether it's private or public, you're recording student data to give you a better idea of how successful things are. And if you're not doing that, if that's too difficult, survey your students. Totally. It's so easy. You're already doing surveys within admission. If you work in admission, you know exactly what an ASQ is. It's an admitted student questionnaire that goes out to students that withdraw, don't attend your university, try to get data from that. Why not send one to students in June, July, after they've joined all your Facebook groups and say, hey, look, was this group successful in helping you make your college choice? One of the things I did that I use sort of year to year is this little quick Google Docs survey where I send it out to as many students as I can find that join the Facebook group and say, here's 10 quick questions. Just let me know how successful it was. And I ask sort of a range of questions between, how did you find the engagement from our current students? Was I too intrusive? Did I say too much to you? Did I feel like, you weren't, spying on you? And also leave it open-ended. And the first year that I did it, the class of 2013, the funny thing was, there was about 600 students in that group. And when I sent it out, I thought maybe I'd get 20, 30, 40 responses. I got over 200 responses from the students, and probably about half of them submitted open-ended responses to say, you guys could do this next year and be great. Hey, I was looking for more information about this, but it didn't work. That information helped me year to year, and I think that that's what we fall short on, is that we do this stuff and then assume, well, we had, 700 students join the group and 600 enrolled, so that means yield increased because Facebook was successful. You have no clue if it could have been 1,000 different reasons why the student joined the Facebook group. So I think you really need to narrow down and focus on what about that Facebook group, or what about your community, or what about what you did online, or even your events made that student enroll at your college and accept you. And I think that's what we always forget. Always build into a marketing plan a survey at the end of it.
Totally. And there's easy ways to build it on a site, that you could have a subsite. There's a lot of things you could do. And again, I hate to sound simplistic, but just ask. Let me tell you something. When you accept the student and they get that digital thing and they say, what are the next steps? Click, please answer our 5-question survey. You better believe you'll get a huge response rate if you ask when they're excited. If you ask at the right time. I think just whatever you do, do as much as you can to get that information. Great point is that if you're using iframes on Facebook, you can include a Google Analytics. You can find a way to include that. So you can get a lot of information that you can wean down. So I just think that's really important.
And another thing for tracking too, if you're using analytics, just to add to that, what I've built is a couple of custom advanced segments that just look at traffic to different pages that I'm promoting from social media platforms, so I can track how successful Twitter is, Facebook is, any platform that we're using, even YouTube videos, that kind of stuff, to say, filter out all, sources except for Facebook, Twitter, and this, and find these pages, and I'll compare that against mailing campaigns, I'll compare that against other campaigns that we have, to actually give real evidence and say, we had 500 clicks to an event from Facebook when we had 30 from emails that go out. And that doesn't mean stop doing emails, that just means make your Facebook invite even better next year, because that's where they're going to go to get it, and I think it's really important to do that too.
Totally agree. And sending out a link as well. Levitz always puts in a lot of great numbers. There's always a lot of numbers with other schools. So, I hate to say compare yourself to your competitors, but on some level that's healthy and you should. This stuff is a challenge. You're competing for students. I don't think you should live and die by the numbers of your competitor, but it's always good to have that in perspective too. So stuff like No Levitz is always a good survey to see what students are looking for, what else is going on out there, what other folks are doing. So that's really good to me.
And I definitely think that you should see what the trends are, because if you're working in admission and you realize you're going to have more applicants next year but lower yield, you know that that's a norm across the country. How do you get your yield rate back to what it was last year? And then that's actually an increase if you think about it. If across the country everybody's going down but you're going up. So it's important to look at national trends, look at WICHE reports. If you don't know what that is and you're working in admission, it's WICHE, which basically they put out a report every year that talks about the upcoming 4 years of recruitment data and admission data, where students are coming from in high school, how many are applying to colleges, how many first-year students they are. So I think that's another report to look at.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we're looking at all this information. I just think there's something to talk about too in the calendar, the admissions calendar, and it's something that I've found from my limited experience, that there is a little something that I'm going to deem the admitted student black hole, which is once you're admitted and you deposit, there's this time across like July, maybe a little bit of early August, where you're just kind of left out there. And the last thing I think any accepted student wants to feel is, okay, I've gone ahead and been accepted, I gave my money, deposited, I'm excited to be a part of it, and now I don't hear from somebody for a month or two. And that happens. And that happens for, I think, 2 reasons. One, because, let's be honest, guys, in higher ed in the summer, nobody does anything. Not exactly true, but largely it is hard to dig up good events, good things to write about, and also I think it's just something that we forget, that we gear up on. We're so getting excited to get them to arrive that we forget there's a really big window in the middle there. So I think one thing I think you need, and this is something that Meet Content, it's .com, right? Georgie and Rick said, they talk about having a content calendar. I think you need to right now have a content calendar for summer. You need to know what information am I putting out, not just for accepted students, but for anybody, that I can repurpose and market at a slow period. And there's a lot of stuff you can collect now, student profiles, things that aren't timely, that you could do to give them, so that way you're still reaching out to them every week and a half with new content, so they feel like they're still part of something.
And really, the fact that July is a great vacation month for staff members is no excuse to ignore your accepted students. And I think that's what happens, that admission kind of looks at the calendar and goes, okay, we got our class in, we can take that month off, and you can't do that at all. And I think what I try to do at Emerson is look at, okay, what are we ending in June? What groups are going to be ready for them in September? Can I reach out to them and say, hey, in July or hey, in August, if you guys have a Facebook group or Facebook page or a website where I can send students to where they can interact with you and try to get some info about what it's like to be an upcoming, an incoming student and say, I want to learn about this, I want to learn about that. If they're asking admission might be gone for a week. But if they ask a current student on Facebook, it's like, that student will write right back and say, yeah, I'm involved in this, I'm involved in that, yeah, I'll meet you at orientation, we'll do this. So I think that's a great time to build out that calendar, prepare for that time, and say, I'm going to make those connections now. And then all it takes, you could be on vacation, send a quick email and say, hey, I'm going to ask this person to write this blog to lead them here. And then that's all it needs to take, and then conversation goes from that point.
Yeah, absolutely. I just think, again, that's the time, guys. Take it as a challenge. And the big point, too, is we talk a lot about, engaging your current students, making them feel part of the community before they arrive. That is huge. Yeah. And you have student groups, you have Facebook, you can do this stuff. But if you don't do it now, you're going to be hard-pressed to do it in July because you're not going to have a lot of content. Spring, in general, for higher ed is the busiest, most exciting time. Not just for admissions. You have commencement. You have a lot of great things going on. I know from my personal experience right now, we have like 10 events in the next 3 weeks. It's insane. Spring is just busy. Yeah. So if we can get those accepted students engaged now, they can self-sustain during our slow period as well. If they're already engaging and talking with each other on Facebook or via another platform, whatever it is, again, you can use Ning to create your group. We're not here to preach one platform or the other, but if you can get students engaged early, they'll self-sustain during the slow period before they arrive.
Absolutely, definitely.
So, guys, this is Higher Ed Live. I mean, I think we're pretty much wrapping up. If you have a last-minute question, get it in. But, my final takeaway before I toss it to the guy who really knows what this is all about is just go the extra mile. It's so easy to send a paper out that says you've been accepted and then to say, check that off your to-do list. Yeah. But to me, I'll be honest, the job starts with their arrival because what we are here to do is not to accept students. What we're here to do is to get students to come in, have an amazing experience, learn, grow, change their lives, and go out and in some small way change the world. Like, that's what we're here to do. And you don't do that by accepting a student and then forgetting them until they physically show up on campus in spring. Or I guess it's September,
yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah, I mean, I reach out and I challenge other people in admissions to really reach out to other departments that are going to be part of that first year experience. Because admissions is not only about getting students to come here, it's also about starting retention for students because you want to basically create that community for that first year of that student to be great. So you want them to have a community already developed. You want them to know some faculty members there, know where to go to get help. And really, that's your job. You're the door in. You're not only the door in just to say, come to an open house as a junior. You're also the door in to say, when you're accepted, we're going to hold your hand into the college and say, this is how to succeed here. So you need to reach out to groups on campus like orientation, to advising, to all those centers out there that are going to be the people that meet them day one. And, try to help with orientation. If you're not at orientation saying hi to some of the students that you accepted, you're not doing enough at this point. You have to try to complete that process, I guess. You think that the process is complete at, sending an acceptance letter, but really it's completed when they step foot on campus,
Absolutely. And then that's just opening up a whole new awesome chapter of their lives,
Yep, exactly.
And that's why, guys, welcoming the incoming class of 2015, I think, is one of the biggest challenges facing higher ed. I honestly do. I think what you do in the next few months will hugely change students' lives, and I think the tone and the attitude they come into campus really impacts how they experience their college. I know a lot of students who've gone to college and have felt lonely or alone, or they didn't fit in with the group, and I think that, I have to say, faults on the institution because no student should show up in the fall and not already feel a part of it. Right. If a student's show up at the fall, that's because there hasn't been the proper opportunity to engage and connect with the right students. So, guys, this has been Higher Ed Live. This is the one and only Mike Petroff. You're already following him on Twitter, but if you're not, it's at Mike Petroff. And, guys, HigherEdLive.com, we have all our archive episodes. We have a newsletter, tons of stuff going on. I just want to thank you guys for watching. Thank Mike for hanging out in LA in person. And, guys, just a couple quick reminders for you here. Next week, big show, Commencement 2.0, graduation for a new generation. Very, very excited about that topic. And then I have to, again, guys, thank HigherEdLive is made possible thanks to our wonderful sponsors. So thanks to Integral. Their schools app is the best way to leverage Facebook to increase yield and retention. You can check out their webinar this Friday. We've tweeted out that link if you are looking for it. And finally, Omni Update. Wonderful group of people over there. They're the leading web content management system provider for higher ed. Their company's web CMS OU campus is secure, scalable, with great tools and features, deployment flexibility, and an awesome user community. It actually was rated with the highest customer satisfaction in the 2010.edu Guru survey. So if you're looking for a custom CMS, check them out. one final thought, guys. Thank you for caring, honestly. Like, this show, the Twitter channel has been amazing to see what you guys are having to say. I've loved being able to pull it up. I just want to say thank you because I worked before in broader communications for the UCLA as a whole as a brand. I've only recently moved to a specific school and worked directly with students. And working with students is one of the most rewarding experiences ever. I get why people in student affairs are so passionate. And I just want to thank you guys for tuning in tonight and caring, because for a student coming to college, it matters that they feel connected, that they feel part of a community, because they're going to go out and do some amazing things. And I'm just grateful that in higher education, there's a lot of us out there that care enough to think about it and to strategize and to figure out how we can do it and do it well.
Yeah. I agree.
Always ending with a good note, right? So, next week, HigherEdLive.com. We're going to have an awesome show. And until then, you guys take care of yourselves. Find us on Twitter. Find us on the internet. And you find yourselves with a smile on your face at the end of the day. Because HigherEdLive has much love for you.
I think you just found a catchphrase.
I think that was pretty good.
Yeah.
What do you guys think? Oh, if you have a thought for my final catchphrase for a new sign-off for the show, tweet it at me. I need a new sign-off each week. Until then, it's just going to be HigherEdLive? That's not very good. So see what you can help me with, guys. I'll see you all next week. Thanks so much.
See you, everybody.